So as this protest is going on outside, you have these devastating demonstrations that's going to forever ruin the credibility of the West. We have the cringiest event known to man going on inside. I told you guys, they made a huge mistake doing this event. You had people who are anti-genocide protesters demanding them to shut down the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And then the ruling class was so smug, like, no, fuck you. You guys don't tell us what to do. Guys, you should have listened, because this event will be studied for years to come for the amount of shameless propaganda. I bet you Chinese, Russian state media, all of them are just going to play the clip that I'll show you guys. But I'm going to show you guys right now to show you guys how fucking insane the West is right now. So you have this White House Correspondents' Dinner. And the premise of the White House Correspondents' Dinner is that they're going to get together and they're going to roast the president. And now his set was like 26 minutes long. And the worst thing that he said about Joe Biden was how he was losing black support. There was a jab in the bit that was about him losing black support and how Democrats are not popular. That was the closest to a roast that you got in his entire 25-minute set. Was him saying, ha ha, you less popular with black people than you used to be, ha ha. That's the premise of this dinner, is that the people can roast the president. There was no roasting, my friends. You're gonna see, and I had to post this because I watched this live and I saw this part and I was dumbfounded. I was dumbfounded to the point where I tweeted out like, bro, do you guys see this? Where the comedian that's supposed to roast Joe Biden stops to praise him as a decent man. So this clip is pretty long, 4 minutes, but holy shit. And this goes on as there's mass genocide protests outside, as you have every single person in this building that was forced to take a walk of shame on their way inside, except Joe Biden, who they snuck in through a trap door, which says everything, right? Which, imagine that happened in North Korea. You know how many headlines that would be said about that? That with China and Russia, where their leaders have to sneak through back doors because they're so unpopular. But anyway, I'll have this clip enough. Let's let it play. I'm gonna torture the fuck out of you guys real quick.
And with my family in mind, I wanted to share one last thing with you before I go, and I wanted to share one thing with you, Mr. President, before I go. I lost my grandfather this year, as you alluded to, a firefighter, William Kelly. He's the reason that our son's middle name is William. He helped raise me growing up, and I would not be here today without him. My grandpa was a firefighter on Staten Island for 40 years. To make extra money for his family, he was a substitute teacher, and he painted houses. And since it's Staten Island, I should point out it's not like the Scorsese Irishman painting houses. He was not a mafia hitman. He actually painted houses. The FBI is here. I don't want to start a whole thing. My grandfather was another rare Irishman who didn't drink because he lost his father and his brother to alcoholism. And I swear, Mr. President, this is not an age comparison. You remind me of him. Some of your best qualities remind me of his. And I will say he was 95 and he was still great at stairs. I think it's because he didn't try to run up them. But the reason that I bring up my grandfather, and I don't know if you realize, Mr. President, but Staten Island firefighters are not normally your demographic. Staten Island voted about 70% for Trump in the last election, and the other 30% was for Giuliani. But Staten Island also sided with the British during the Revolutionary War. So we're not always on the right side of history. You remember. But my grandfather, a Staten Island firefighter, voted for you, Mr. President.
With a punchline.
He voted for you in the last election that he ever voted in. I mean, I'm sure someone else will vote twice in this election using his name, but that's just how the Democratic machine works.
My soul hurts.
He voted for you, and the reason that he voted for you is because you're a decent man.
Bro, what? This is the shit that is being aired on our TV, and people don't think we're the most propagandized country in the world. Remember, the whole premise of this is that this is supposed to be a roast, guys. And you have a guy that is funding a whole-ass genocide, that is providing diplomatic immunity to a country committing genocide, providing diplomatic cover, I should say. You have the guy who lied about UNRWA. So it's been widely reported, and you have even the German government, even the country of Germany decided to continue funding UNRWA because, like many investigations, has shown that Israel got their dossier via torture. They have no evidence of UNRWA participating in terrorism. But despite Israel having no evidence of defunding UNRWA, Joe Biden said he saw it. Joe Biden said he saw evidence lying of UNRWA being terrorists so he can defund UNRWA so more Palestinians can starve to death. That's the guy that this shit lib that they call comedian is calling decent. Do you guys understand why I despise liberalism now? I sound completely different than I did about 7 years ago, even way different than I did 4 to 5 years ago as a Bernie crack, because I rejected every ounce of liberalism from my body. I completely decolonized my mind, and I realized that liberals are our number one enemy, because liberals are okay with mass atrocities. Liberals is okay with evil, state violence, a thug that funded Nazis in Ukraine, waging war in Africa. One of the most evil motherfuckers of all time. You can do whatever you want as long as you're decent. Do you guys see why liberalism is so dangerous? Under liberalism, you can commit whatever crime if you're part of the ruling class. You can fund genocide. You can become the drone strike king like Barack Obama, drop drones on weddings. You can bomb hospitals. You can fund genocides. You can kick Guantanamo Bay up, and you can have secret torture sites. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, I should say, there's no limit to your depravity as long as you're decent, as long as you're polite, as long as you're civil. You can commit whatever crime you want if you're part of this government. That is the ideology of liberalism. They oppose any act of liberation except the current one. Truly, utterly disgusting behavior here. I'll play it again. I'll play it again just because of how bad it was.
He voted for you, and the reason that he voted for you is because you're a decent man.
He even waits for the applause. He even waits for the applause. Hey guys, this is the part we put the applaud. Remember, this is Biden's moment. This is Biden's moments, guys. Put the applause right here. There are no comedians no more. Comedy as a medium is dead. Bunch of bootlicking motherfuckers. The age of George Carlin is dead. I always spoke about how much I idolize Carlin. You know what I mean? The age of Carlin, the age of comedians speaking out against this shit is over. This is the most propagandized country in the world. The West has completely lost their mind, and we are living through a historic age of mass genocidal psychosis. I don't want to diss anyone, but man, like Bill Burr's all right, but he kind of shit-lived too, man. He kind of shit-lived too, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, let's continue. But I don't want to get you wrong. I like Bill Burr, but we shouldn't be listening to none of these people regarding politics, man. Not a goddamn thing. There is literally, I can still listen to the Carlin sets to this day. To this day, as a comedian, I mean, as a communist, I can listen to George Carlin set and I'll have a great time. Bill Burr is funny, bro, but I can't listen to his political shit. He sounds like a shitlib to me, man. Like when you have class analysis, he got good jokes, but it's not class based. I'm not seeing him call the empire and the propaganda. George Carlin had a bit about soft language and how people call Israeli terrorist commandos. George Carlin had a bit calling out Israeli propaganda. Show me the bit where Bill Burr is calling out Israeli propaganda. There's difference, bro. Like, I'm not shit on Bill Burr because I think he is good, but I will never listen to him I will never even consider him a dissident. You know what I mean? But that's just my opinion, and that opinion's on pop culture. So who cares? Who cares? Just if you don't agree with how I feel about celebrity, who cares? It's just celebrity shit. Let's finish the rest of this cringe video, and then I have a funny way to end this segment. So we torture ourselves through this part, but there's a part of this correspondence dinner that just I tweeted about today. So if you follow my Twitter account, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil it, so let's finish this part. I'm gonna get to the last part of the segment.
It's because you're a decent man. My grandpa voted for decency, and decency is why we're all here tonight. Decency is how we're able to be here tonight.
What the fucking fuck? Holy. These are the most detestable assholes in the world. These are journalists who won't speak up about hundreds of journalists being murdered by their taxpayer money. They are cheering for the guy responsible for this. These are journalists. I wouldn't put on another rant this segment, but they are cheering for a guy and they refuse to speak out. In fact, few of them was in favor of the prosecution of Julian Assange. Not a single one of these motherfuckers in this room said anything about Gonzalo Lira, the American journalist that was killed by Ukraine. Every single one of these people support Ukraine. And here they are just patting each other on the back. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna let it finish for the sake of time. But man, this shit is very triggering. I'm gonna let it play uninterrupted.
And decency is why we're all here tonight. Decency is how we're able to be here tonight.
This is literally crazy, man.
Decency is how we're able to make jokes about each other and one of us doesn't go to prison after. We go to the Newsmax after party. And when you look at the levels of freedom throughout history and even around the world today, this is the exception. This
oh my fucking God! Rare.
And the journalists in this room
God
help protect that freedom, and we cannot ever take that for granted.
I'll play that part again because I got triggered, so I know you guys probably didn't hear it. Listen to this. This actually works the second time you listen to it. Maybe because I watched it live and I grabbed the clips. I guess I was like, maybe didn't like, bro. This part is probably the worst part. Holy shit! This time I promise I won't interrupt it. Wow. I won't interrupt this time.
Decency is how we're able to make jokes about each other, and one of us doesn't go to prison after. We go to the Newsmax after party. And when you look at the levels of freedom throughout history and even around the world today, this is the exception. This freedom is incredibly rare, and the journalists in this room help protect that freedom, and we cannot ever take that for granted. So, Mr. President, I thank you for your decency on behalf of my grandfather, and I thank all of you, almost all of you, for your decency as well. I am very honored and grateful that you invited me here tonight. Thank you and good night.
So he said some of you. Remember, you know how the end he said, I applaud you guys. I mean some of you guys. So what he's saying is, if you're part of Fox News or part of the right-wing media sphere, he's not talking about you. He's like, we are all decent. We are such great people. We are great people. We should pat ourselves on the back. We are such amazing people, aren't we? We are amazing people. We are so great. They do this without a hint of irony. They're like, we are all great people except Fox News. So according to this shit lib, Fox News doing right-wing propaganda is worse than you guys doing genocide propaganda. It's worse than you guys doing propaganda. And probably, as I describe on Twitter in my tweet, the most sickening display, this aired on TV. This was aired on TV. This is the most disgusting act of public bootlicking that we have ever seen. Probably one of the most blatant propaganda segments that we ever seen. Here in the most authoritarian police state, we have cop cities up everywhere. We have the UK, Israel, the United States executing journalists en masse, killing American journalists. And then at the very end, he's like, oh man, we're the reason why, we're the representatives of freedom. Everywhere else is dark. Everywhere else is evil. Oh my God, the world is a dark place. We are the beacon of light. We are the beacon of justice. We are the thing that separates fascism and democracy. This is kind of shit that fascists say. This is literally insanity. Like, bro, if we looked at this from the outside in, like when people look back on history, they're going to see this clip and we're going to see it no different than, you know how people see like the Nazi rallies? Then people are like, oh my God, how can they get hypnotized like that? You see what this person said? Like, oh my, you know, Hitler said that he believed he was the savior of humanity. You know how they bring out those old crazy quotes? That's going to be people about 50 years from now looking back what people say now. He literally painted a picture that journalism and freedom is under attack, and they're the only thing protecting it. It's literally the most egotistical, batshit crazy thing you can possibly say. Despite the legendary bootlicking that we saw from that SNL host, where he essentially praising Biden, praising the journalism, he sold his soul. Well, a long time ago, that's how he got the invite in the first place. That's why he hosting SNL. Do you guys know that after all of that bootlicking shit that he did, he's still getting destroyed in the New York Times? Because Colin Jost, or however you say his name, he thought that extreme bootlicking towards the establishment will make up for the fact that he's not funny. He thought that if he stuck up to the media enough, he stuck up to Biden enough, the media would ignore that he probably gave the worst televised stand-up segment in modern times, in years at least, in decades at least. Because I saw a lot of people in the comments as we were watching the video, you guys were saying in the comments that, man, this shit is not funny. But you guys notice I wasn't focused on that because I had a larger point to make. But yeah, guys, I saw the entire set, my friends. It's on YouTube right now if you're curious. It's a 25-minute set that will go down in history as the least funniest shit you will ever hear in your life. My roommate was listening to it like, bro, this dude's not funny. The worst comedy you ever hear in your life. So now you have the New York Times. Guys, the New York Times is now roasting him for this horrifically unfunny segment. Listen to this. On this Saturday night, Colin Jost jokes fell flat. So after bootlicking the establishment, then the New York Times didn't roast his ass. Couldn't happen to a bigger bootlicker, right? The White House Correspondents Association dinner has occasionally featured some great stand-up comedy. This SNL veteran said will not join that list. It will not join the list of the few good sets. And that's just going by them. I found Michelle Wolf roasting Sarah Huckabee Sanders would be funny. Stephen Colbert obviously had a classy, which honestly I don't know how well it holds up to this day. You know, the Stephen Colbert Correspondents dinner, because I haven't seen it in like over a decade since it happened. So I don't know how well that holds up, to be honest. But that's considered a great bit. But this Correspondents dinner, ooh, this guy bombed so bad. He better be happy that he has an SNL contract, apparently, because if he only had to rely on stand-up comedy, his career would be over. That's how bad that set was.